Hello, my name is Earl Bump, the world-famous documentarian, and today I will be walking you through the most important, influential, and prominent deaths throughout European history. Today, we will begin with Franz Ferdinand, born December 18, 1863, and assassinated on June 28, 1914. Ferdinand, who was determined to succeed his father to the throne in 1886, took it after his father's death. By 1896, Ferdinand was well versed in foreign affairs, as he was attempting to restore Austro-Russia, while also attempting to preserve his alliance with Germany. He tried all he could to not endanger the multinational Habsburg Empire. With all this experience, Ferdinand gained a higher influence on the military after 1906, which culminated with him becoming the Inspector General in 1913. However, this would not last long. After traveling to Sarajevo, as the military was there and he was their Inspector General, Ferdinand and his wife decided to ride through the city in an open-roofed car on the anniversary and black date of the Battle of Kosovo in 1389. After visiting the wounded soldiers in the hospital, the couple decided to keep driving around the city. However, their driver took a wrong turn, right into a group of conspirators against Ferdinand. 19-year-old Gavrilo Princip decided this was his moment. Princip pulled out his pistol and shot Ferdinand and his wife Sophie. After this, their driver then rushed to the hospital, but Sophie died en route, and Ferdinand passed shortly after. Princip then decided to shoot himself, but he was apprehended before doing so. Too young for the death penalty, Princip was sentenced to 20 years in prison, but died of tuberculosis in 1918. However, Princip caused something much larger than he would have ever thought. After Ferdinand's death, World War I began as a result. Next, we'll be talking about Grigory Rasputin, who was supposedly born in 1872 in Siberia, although no one knows for sure. However, Rasputin passed away on December 30th, 1916 in Petrograd. Rasputin was the mystical influential at the court of Tsar Nicholas II and his wife Alexandra. After educating himself, Rasputin came to be known as a mystic healer, supposedly able to heal any sickness. He became quite close to Alexandra after supposedly stopping the bleeding of Alexandra's hemophiliac son, supposedly by using hypnotism. After Nicholas left Alexandra in charge of Russia's internal affairs in the year 1915, Rasputin then began to influence her decisions of church officials and other higher-ups. After almost having amassed vast influence over Russia, Rasputin was finally stopped. Prince Felix Yusupov and a group of noblemen were the ones to end Rasputin's tyranny. They started by poisoning him, but he survived. They shot him. He survived that too. And then only when they threw him into the icy Neva River did Rasputin finally succumb. His death was a part of growing anti-royal sentiment of the 1917 Russian Revolution. At the start of World War II, the powerful Il Duce had a stranglehold on Italy. He ruled with an iron fist and controlled every aspect of Italian media. Many Italians were tired of strikes and riots, so this rise to power was largely welcomed, as he was seen as a force that could bring order to Italy. As the saying goes, Mussolini made the trains run on time. But by the end of World War II, the war effort had significantly deteriorated for the Axis powers, and German defenses were starting to collapse in Italy. When the situation became dire, and Il Duce, also known as Mussolini, tried to escape Switzerland with his mistress, they were intercepted by Italian communist partisans and executed. Their bodies were hung upside down on display in front of jubilant crowds. The once supreme Mussolini had dragged Italy into a devastating war, and his oppressive and hard-headed nature had made him deeply unpopular. He would end up being denied the opportunity to escape what he had created, and his death would bring closer the end of the Axis powers in Europe. After talking about Benito Mussolini, we might as well talk about his partner in crime, Adolf Hitler. After many turbulent years of fighting, Hitler had conquered most of Europe. However, he made the mistake that would cost him the war. He decided to break the non-aggression pact that he had signed with Stalin. He then commenced Operation Barbarossa, but experienced catastrophic losses. His troops were forced to retreat and would then be circled in Berlin. Out of options, him and his wife Eva Braun committed suicide. Their end would lead to the fall of the Nazis and the end of the war. Next, we take a trip back in time to talk about Gaius Julius Caesar, who came from a family of modest patricians and was born into a time when patrician blood did not guarantee advantage. Caesar climbed the ladder of Roman politics until being elected a consul in 59 BC. Caesar legendarily conquered Gaul and secured land for the Romans all the way to the Rhine. Caesar elevated himself and tensions started to build between him and his former ally Pompey. Pompey pleaded with the Senate to have Caesar stripped of his armies, and in a bold refusal, Caesar marched on Rome. After the assassination of Pompey in Egypt and a decisive victory for Caesar spanning 4 long years, he returned to Rome as a dictator, thus ending the Roman Republic and creating the Roman Empire. After rising to such power, a group of senators, fearful of the power that he gained, conspired to assassinate him in February of 44 BC. He was killed by the senators on March 15th of that year, inside the theater of Pompeii. Leon Trotsky was born in Beroslavka, Ukraine, November 1879, into a middle-class farming family. During his life, Trotsky was a communist theorist and Soviet politician. He played a key role in the Russian Revolution of 1917, directing the Soviet military forces. He later served as the Soviet Commissar of Foreign Affairs and of War. After the death of Vladimir Lenin in 1924, Trotsky was gradually removed from power. In 1929, he was exiled by his chief rival in government, Joseph Stalin. He sought refuge in Mexico and settled into a house in Coyoacan, 1936. In 1940, armed men attacked his house with machine guns, but he survived. A second assassination attempt took place some 3 months later, where Spanish communist Ramon Mercader fatally struck Trotsky with an ice pick. It is generally believed that Mercader was acting on orders from Trotsky's rival, Joseph Stalin. We once again will be talking about World War I with Tsar Nicholas II, who was the Tsar of Russia from 1895 to 1917. Nicholas, his wife, Alexandra, and his children were killed by the Bolshevik forces after previously being captured by them in Yekaterinburg. Nicholas was an autocratic ruler who had previous experience with military training. After Russia's setbacks during World War I, Nicholas even stepped up as chief of the military, after which his absence from Moscow led to the Russian Revolution of 1917. After this, him and his family were sent to Yekaterinburg. Originally, they were to be sent to England, but they were stopped by the Bolsheviks. Out of paranoia that they would eventually reclaim their throne, they were executed. The family was slaughtered along with the other prisoners at Yekaterinburg. This then led to the communists taking over. Next, we talk about King Louis XVI, who did not originally want to rule, even though he was the grandson of King Louis XV. His interests lied in locksmithing, wrestling, hunting, and other activities, but being royalty, he inevitably claimed the throne at the age of 20. Louis XVI was very shy, and he was taught to not let others read his thoughts, leading to many believing that he was slow, though it was clear they had an exceptional memory. Louis XVI often ignored his duties, which resulted in massive debt and increasing hatred towards monarchs from the people. Many riots began during Louis XVI's rule, leading to the fall of the monarchy in 1792, and a year later, the execution of Louis XVI and his queen via guillotine on account of counter-revolution. I do hope you enjoyed our exciting and very interesting romp through the history of Europe, and learning about these famous men's deaths and some of the absurd ways that they passed away. I do hope that these did not scar you and were more of an educational experience, and if not, well, I apologize, but that is not my problem. Goodbye, and thank you once again.